This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Wanted to say thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you give us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that. We do not hide greatness on this show because that's just who we are. And we want you to share the good news. We got some good news to share with you today. Some sports going on in the city of Atlanta, and we're going to talk about the Atlanta Braves are starting to hit their stride. And I think that it starts with nephew running. We'll talk about that. And Drake London, is he starting to creep up into the wide receiver 1 category? And last but not least, and for the culture, Eli Manning is trying out for Penn State as a walk-on. I thought he didn't have any eligibility left. We'll talk about all that and for the culture. But first, the Atlanta Braves get the dub last night against the Washington Nationals, 5-2. Eddie Rosario goes yard. Austin Riley goes yard. And I think that, I mentioned a nephew running, starting to do his thing. He's back in the lineup, playing right field consistently now, and it looks like that's going to be the case for the rest of the season and throughout the postseason, however long that lasts. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you just kind of look at how that team plays and how Ronald Acuna plays when he's out in the field and hitting at the plate, this just looks like a totally different team to you.
It does. It really does. He's in that leadoff position, this thing. And I think for him having the fullness of the game, we all joke and say, well, his BF came back up when he had the 4 Phillies. But real talk, he's the kind of guy who's a competitor. So he doesn't just want to be in that DH there and be in right field and contribute. And I think for him, when he's able to play the game on offense and defense, then we get to see the best of Ronald Acuna Jr. But I also think that we look at the top, middle, bottom of the order. The bottom has been lights out, probably the most consistent.
Best in Major League Baseball.
They have been the story now, but at the beginning of the season, Dansby Swanson and for the story, right? So it's good to see the top of the 2-hole, the 3-hole, the cleanup coming back to life, because it was hard every night going, okay, Matt Olson, 0 for 3, okay, 0 for 7, okay, 0 for 22. So the 2-hit performance last night, it's like you're just hoping that is the beginning of the momentum and getting back on track, because I tell you what, Jarvis, they have right now a situation where it's mano a mano, Mets and Braves. And if the Braves lineup top to bottom can get it together, that order from leadoff all the way through, I would put good money on the Braves being able to win that division and having a deep run in the postseason.
Yeah, and I think Matt Olson is the key. He's the guy that I've really been concerned about because, nephew can kind of affect the games in different ways, right? He can on the bases and getting on base and being able to force guys to make mistakes on when they're out there in the field. And I think that, but Matt Olson, is either his bat or pretty much nothing else. And you know what I'm saying? So when it comes to him being at the plate, so for him to have his first multi-hit game, since August 27th, that's a pretty big deal. And I think that, that is absolutely amazing that he's been struggling for that long. So I think that as the season winds down, like you mentioned, I think that this is pretty much going to come down to, we're going to find out the winner of this series, this division at the end of the year in that series against the New York Mets, because it looks like the Braves are starting to heat up and the Mets are starting to heat up as well, with Max Scherzer coming back and just mowing down folks like we used to see Max Scherzer do. So I think that, that the series is going to decide this bad boy for sure. So it is perfect timing, so to speak, when you talk about Riley and Olson and Nephew and Dansby, all those guys starting to heat up. Speaking of heating up, the NFL season is heating up, T. Tell the folks about BetOnlinenet that can help them out and start to catch some of that heat and start putting some money in their pockets.
Yeah, you definitely can. And you can bet on whether or not you believe the Braves will be the winners of the NL East for a fifth year in a row. And how do you find out what that line looks like and who's the favorite? Go to betonline.net. That's where all your sports information is for your major teams in the NFL, NBA, as well as MLB, but also for your niche sports like MMA and golf. But yeah, if you want to look even to see, okay, yes, the Falcons are 0-2, but the Falcons put up a strong fight in game 2, and that probably impacts what that line is going to look like as they prepare to take on the Seahawks. If you want to know how the line moves, check out betonline.net. And for you novices, that's okay. They have podcasts to teach you how to get in the game, get in this thing. And then if you are someone who is a pro at this, but you just kind of want to see what the other pros think, betonline.net is your source. So check it out just after, of course, check out ATL Day Ones. That's betonline.net. That is where the game starts.
Yes, indeed. That's where the game starts. The game starts here on ATL Day Ones. As games haven't started yet for the Atlanta Hawks, T, but as you know, we love a good list on ATL right here on ATL Day Ones, and this one is no different. CBSSports.com has released their top 100 NBA player rankings, and I think that, of course, you had the usual Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, battling for the top spot. But I think that when you go down the list and you start to look at a few things, is that Trey Young landed at number 14. And Luka Doncic came in at number 5. Steph Curry came in at number 2. But how does this sit with you? Because I know that we always talked about how the national media never shows Trey Young love, and we talked about this plenty of times on this show. Do you think Trey Young is right on brand with being a top 15 player in the NBA, or should he be higher?
Yeah, absolutely think that at a minimum 15, because I'll be honest, as the list breaks down, it'll take you through, and then you get kind of it goes to your other 10. So it's kind of like building it up. I was looking at 21 through 30. I was okay. Now down to business. Let's see where Trey landed, because we know that we had all 5 of Hawk starters to make the list, and the king of bench mob, the leader of the bench mob, Bogdanovich. But the real question was, where does the heart and soul of this team land? Does it land in the top 20, the top 10, what have you? And when you look at this, I'll be honest, I put 2-3 times just to be like, okay, who's on it? And I really can't see, even giving Luka his flowers at number 5, I can't really see anybody who Trey would necessarily usurp to get, to jump into, say, that top 10 or even that top 5. I've looked at the list over and over. And when you think about even the PGs that are ahead of him, right? Like a Dame Lillard, Ja Morant, like you said, Steph Curry. I can't make an argument at this point that anybody should be behind him. You could make the argument, maybe, and I'm making it loose, by the way, maybe like a Ja Morant, because Trey has accomplished more. So you could make that argument, but I think that 14 is about accurate.
I'm with you, but like I said, but you know me, you know how I feel about, Trey Young as far as when it comes to comparisons to Ja Morant. A lot of people want to have fall in love with the big guards, and that's one of the only reasons why I feel that people think Ja Morant is better, and I'm putting in quotation marks for those who you listen to the audio, that he's better than Trey Young, and I just don't think that's the case. Like, because if we take size out of it, right, or if we say magically Trey Young was a little bit taller or the same height as Ja Morant, I don't believe that people will be talking about Ja in that same light, because Trey is dynamic. He's one of the best pick and roll point guards in the entire NBA, and and I can pause right there and stop right there. I don't have to say make any justifications for that.
Yeah, and the numbers they don't lie.
Right, exactly, and he's done something that that we haven't seen since Tiny Archibald. Like, how about that for a name? Look it up for those young folks who don't know who that is, because he led the league in total points and total assists this year. So, and a guy of that size to be able to do that, I think you got to get a little bit more credit for it than, downgrading that person because of his size. So I think that, in that 12 to 15 range, I think I'm pretty cool with that because, and I'm not going to argue against the Luka Doncic because people
that's not even the argument.
Absolutely just go crazy with him, and I'll let them have that. I'll let the folks have that argument. But I think that, right there in the top 15 in the NBA, I'm pretty cool with that. Now, T, we talked about how, we talk about the rankings and everything like that, but I think that, in these first two games for the Atlanta Falcons, we've seen something that we probably haven't seen in quite some time. I wouldn't say quite some time. Ever since Julio Jones left the building, right? I think we have another wide receiver one. We'll talk about that next, right here on ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and T, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.